Hello, hi, how are you doing? This is Jeff Coyle from Market Muse. I'm the co-founder and chief strategy officer, and today we're going to talk about advanced competitive analysis made easy. And the goal is that in about 20 minutes, you're going to change the way you think about search engine optimization through competitive analysis. And what's really special about that is that almost everyone does this wrong. And after this, you will not. Why competitive analysis? Because it's an important thing for anyone to know. Whatever stage your site is, consistent competitive analysis processes will improve your trajectory of growth, improve your trajectory of perspective in the market, and an understanding of market share and visibility. If you're a broker or a portfolio owner, it allows you to assess the current value of an inventory, what untapped value is there, and likely outcomes of changing content production, update cadence, turning that into a core process if you are buying and selling. If you're an in-house team, typically you're bound by resource constraints and internal justifications of return on investment. So identifying clear plans based on competitive threats and tendencies can win internal, hey, we know what to write debates. And in agencies, understanding the competitive landscape and content investment and volume better allows you to scope content projects and set expectations appropriately with clients. The thing to take away is they spent months or they spent years. You can evaluate that in days or weeks. That's why competitive analysis is so critical to your search engine optimization efforts and that you need to learn and put into action today. A little bit of additional flavor here. Google is serious about improving searcher experience. So everything you do needs to come from a lens of content quality, content comprehensiveness, understanding whether what you're looking at exhibits expertise. Does it answer common user intent profiles? So what does that mean? Someone's searching for something. What are they actually looking for? The page they get to, does it answer that intent? Does it satisfy that intent? Does it provide information value? Does it provide an understanding of where they are in the buyer journey? Understanding content quality and evaluating content quality is critical to any search engine optimization effort, especially competitive analysis, because you're going to be able to say, does this page answer this intent? Is it of high quality? What other types of complex queries might Google be digesting in order to show this page that I want to consider in my plan? And then understanding topic modeling. That might sound like a scary word, but it just means if I were an expert and I were covering this specific topic comprehensively, what are the things that I would naturally include? If I were a librarian, if I was building an outline or building a structure for the perfect site or the perfect book to describe this concept, what would that look like? And how does all that come together when we're researching our site, when we're researching a competitive site, to understand where they have gaps in their game, where they've got teeth missing, where they've got entire foundation cracks? And that all goes into our competitive analysis experience today. Market Muse, we're a content intelligence platform. We analyze content and say whether it is high quality. We analyze entire sites and say where they have strengths and weaknesses. And we do that by understanding what it means to be an expert on a topic. So what I'm going to walk through today is how to manually do a quick competitive analysis to understand what I need to do. I need to understand their competitive content strategy, or the content strategy that will be make us competitive with respect to them. 8 steps. 1, you got to do a content inventory. It's not a scary thing. You're looking at your competitor. You're just building out what are all their pages? What are the things they cover? Start really basic. Look at the titles of their pages. Grab them. If you have a crawler, download Xenu, XENU. It's a free link checker, but there's also some other crawlers you might get access to. Or you can even do it just manually, walking through, maybe they have a site map. Look and find all the pages they have. How many pages do they have? How are they structured? What's the structure of their site? Understand the profiles of those pages, how many they have. Understand the structure of their site, how far away in the, from the home page are each of these pages, and just try to get a sense for who they are, what they do, how big they are. Very important. Now you want to get to the next stage, content types. What content types do they write? Do they have 100 blog pages? Do they have 20 product pages? Do they have only a small amount of pages? Are they a lawyer? So they have, 40 practice area pages, but they have a 10-page blog and 2 bio pages. You got to figure out the content types that they write. Also, if you have access to any way of understanding which ones are more highly performant or not, if you have access to a search engine optimization, a basic platform, go get a free account at something like SEMrush or Ahrefs or similar. Try to identify what pages are working for them, what pages aren't, amongst the confines of the structure of their site. Now you want to understand and try to start to assess the value of each of these pages. It's not just about links and rankings though. You want to understand how much content they have, the breadth of content, the depth of content, then the quality. You want to look at the length. If you read these articles or scan them, which ones have high quality? How is that correlating to value? Which ones are kind of thin? Which ones maybe look like they were written by somebody who doesn't really understand the topic? Which ones, aren't really exhibiting expertise? Plus then understanding how frequently they're updating content or creating content. Look for dates, look in their sitemap, kind of get an understanding of how much content they're publishing every month. Has this changed over time? You can get into Wayback Machine, web.archive.org to look at how the site's transitioned over time. Because what you're trying to do is effectively do a quickie forensic audit of everything that's happened to them and everything that they're doing now. And how is that correlating to today's value or the performance of that site in organic search? So, asking questions. What did 2021 look like for them? What were the results? They created 20 articles. They had these pages go up, these pages go down. Of those 20 articles they created, only 2 of them have any meaningful rankings. You're documenting all this to build out your process. Now you want to get aligned with, alignment. So determining whether you see anything in those pages that's out of alignment with the goals of this business, out of alignment with the keywords that they may be ranking for. Understanding where maybe they have a page that's ranking for things that the page doesn't satisfy. It's creating what we call an intent mismatch. So you've got a page and it's all about, what's the best breed of dog for me in a small apartment. And it ranks for, dog houses. For one reason or another, that's totally out of alignment. You want to document. They've got intent mismatch issues. You want to review the top performers for this competitor and the top ranking pages, and really understand what would you do if you worked at this company? What are the next pages you'd create? What's the track that you would build that would say, ooh, I did really well with this. There's momentum here. What are the next 5 pages? What are the next 10 pages one might create to take advantage of this? Or maybe you identify the fact that it's part of a cluster or collection of content, and you are starting to map together what their likely next steps would be, or maybe where they have pages that are out of alignment. You really want to check on content quality. Walking through each of these top pages, or walking through this collection of the pages that you really want to focus in on that are related to your business from a competitive landscape perspective, and getting a sense for where do they have significant winners? Where do they have significant losers? Do they have a collection of content that's about things that you care about and they're not really covering it very well? You can do a better job. So this is where you're really getting into that dissection of their content. What topics are they targeting? Right? How is that manifesting in the value? Where do they have high performing content? Again, what was their strategy? So now you know how much they're creating, on what topics, the structure of the site, the types of pages they're creating, the structure of each of those, like subdirectories, etc. You're starting to think about what they might do next, and where they have great content, and where they have weak content. You're getting into that mindset of what should they do next. I know who they are, I know what they cover, I know how much they cover, I know where they have winners and losers, I know where they have good content and where they have bad content. Now I want to think about if I were writing their content, if I were focused on their areas of opportunity, what would you need in order to round out some of these informational journeys or these buyer journeys? Right. So I've got this page. It's kind of high level. It's a guide. It's pretty good. It's 3,000 words. I was looking at my competitor, they rank for lots of stuff. Well, if I were in their shoes, what would be the pages that I would build based on the structure, not looking even at the quality yet? What were the things that we would build that would be good next steps for people to travel down, right? This is the rest of the cluster. What, maybe this is written for beginners. So I want to write the same page. What I'm going to document that they might want to write the same page for experts or for specific industries. So I'm going to walk through these pages and understand what you would do to round out their clusters if you were building out recommendations for them. So clusters might seem like a complicated word, but just think about, if I were an expert on this concept, what are things that I would naturally know? If you're an expert on the things you're researching, it helps. But if you're not, just trying to think about it, right? If you were building a book about this, what are chapters you would have? If you were thinking about all the questions you might answer, if you were covering this, which ones are answered and which ones are not? You want to get into, is this linked? How is this linked to the rest of the site? This can be a huge advantage. Checking your competitors' inventory to see, do they link externally to adjacent references? Do they not link externally, right? Do they link externally to their powerful competitors? Not a great idea if you're telling somebody that there's better versions of the same target. Or are they linking naturally and adjacently? Worse off, are they linking in some sort of scheme, right? When you're doing analysis, you want to check that out. As with any of these steps, if you find things where somebody's writing super low quality content, they're spamming, they're not linking internally, they're not going back to old content and linking to new, they're not linking their new content very well, it's only accessible via 1 or 2 pages internally. Those are notes you want to write down. Those are things you're going to be able to take advantage of when I get to the end of this discussion topics, because you're building a dossier. You're effectively building the X-ray into everything they do. You also want to look at who they're approaching. And if one was approaching this holistically, right? Just like you're going to the doctor's office. If one were approaching the topics that you're focused on holistically, who are things you would touch on? So maybe they're only targeting one type of person. Maybe they're only targeting SEOs, but you know that this topic appeals to content marketers, demand gen specialists, as well as SEOs, right? Do you want to write content that appeals to all 3 of those customer intent profiles? Do they never talk about early stage awareness content at your competitor's site? They're only doing pricing information or troubleshooting information. Maybe it's a forum or user generated content site. You want to talk to who do they cover, what intents they target, and then, because now you know all the things that surround it, how should they be, and where are their intent gaps? Where are their target market gaps with their content? This is all building that dossier, the X-ray of what they're doing. So effectively, what you want to be able to say at this stage of this process, remember, we looked through all their intent, their inventory. We looked at their content types. We looked at who they're targeting. We know how much content they create and on what topics. We went even back in time. Maybe we learned something. Maybe they had an editor leave. Maybe the old person that worked there was really, really good about this topic, but now that person's gone, so now they don't write about it anymore. Those are great situations, by the way. Maybe they did a content migration, a site migration. Maybe they changed names. You want to know all of this stuff. You're building that historical forensic roadmap. What pages do they have that perform well? Which ones don't? Maybe they have great content that doesn't perform well. Can you figure out why? So now all of that, you're dissecting the high quality. You're understanding where they should be expanding their content if you were in their shoes. So what you're doing is effectively, and this can be for one site or a small collection of sites, but just as a starter pack, you're going to start with one site. What's the ideal inventory that they would have if they were doing all the questions that we asked really right? So you said, hey, they have huge gaps in their game here. If I were going to build the perfect site for them right now and take the perfect steps that they would take, what would I do? You want to get in a situation where you are dissecting them and you are determining what they would do best. You're predicting their content strategy. Here's your homework, folks. And this is really, really basic stuff, right? Pick a competitor, pick your battles. Try to start with a site that's similar to yours or maybe even slightly weaker, but you admire them for one reason or another. Maybe they rank for some things and not a ton, or maybe they're very equivalent, or maybe just one level more mature than you. Don't go out and try to pick on Amazon with this process, right? If this site is a zombie means they're not publishing anymore, or they're not publishing on the topics that you care about, or they're not updating content on things you care about. I'll give you a bonus point. So picking a competitor, if it's a zombie, like we mentioned, you get a little bonus points. If they're off-page factors, if you know how to do analysis on their link profile or of their history, they have issues, they've gone down, they've had a very, very spiky experience. If they're doing things that look fishy and weird, like they're doing link schemes or anything like that, you get some bonus points because they're going to be easier targets. But you don't need to go there. But yeah, try to pick someone that's similar to you, similar types of things. If they're not publishing anymore, great bonus. So try to find that. Now perform that analysis that we talked about. So looking at all the pages they have, what are their current writing tendencies? What are the topics they cover? How frequently? What are the common structures of their pages? You're looking to pick things off. You're going to pick off maybe formulas they have, or rubrics, as they say, which is basically a fancy name for saying like a content outline. Documenting that. I think likely they're going to write a set of basic articles about 4 dog breeds this month, and they're going to write 2 news articles, etc. Right? So you want to get their rankings and their intent mismatches. Okay, out of that, what will likely happen? Because I know from the articles I looked at over the past few months, these are the wins they have, these are the losses. Where are they standing still is another thing you want to think about. Where are they haven't grown, at all, period. They're relying on pages from like 6 years ago for all their traffic. Maybe they just aren't writing on a particular topic anymore. They're just focused on this thing. They pivoted, but I care about both. And your goal, pick a competitor, do this work, have it all documented, and predict their calendar, right? What will they likely do? Right? You've already started to think about what you would do if you were them, right? Now, this is where the big flux happens. This is where the change happens in your process. You already predicted their calendar. You got to do the work here, right? Now, you have to, I like to say, dial at least one number higher. Now, apply this to your site. You've got to create a strategy where everything you publish is going to be more comprehensive. It's going to be differentiated. It's going to answer more questions and target more intents than their mistakes do. It's going to empower more task completion. And for this, maybe one section of the site that you identified as their biggest gap or their biggest challenge that they're still ranking well for, they're still doing well, but it's still, you analyze it and there's some major problems that you identified. Maybe for this exercise, you want to document that if they have only a section of a page devoted to a topic, for this exercise, we're going to build a page and we're going to build a great page on that section. And every time they have a page on this topic, we're going to build a couple pages that target more intents and empower more task completion. Remember, you're trying to get really laser focused to show that this process is going to be successful. And you want to tie all that together with some creativity and expertise. You want to walk into this planning meeting internally with a targeted strategy that says, I went through, here's the dossier of our competitor, here's everything you'd ever want to know about them. And I found this one subset that represents an opportunity because it's not really well covered, but they're punching above their weight. They're doing a little bit better than they should. As a result of that, in my case, we should build this collection of content and update these pages on our site because I'm very, very confident that it's going to have a meaningful impact on our business. So walking through and understanding that for each of your competitors can give you a certain leg up. Staying ahead with competitive differentiation is extremely critical at any stage. It's also important to be able to look at a competitive site, look at a site that you might be wanting to buy and understand where they have huge missed opportunities. If you find an entire section of their site is poorly optimized, it's low quality, it's completely dangling in left field. It's hidden from the rest of the site. Those are going to be areas where you can spruce up, improve them, and have that site grow quickly, or take advantage of it if you are a competitor. One thing you want to make sure, don't you do this. You're not copying what they do. You're not just doing something to get it out there. You're making sure that what you provide would absolutely pass muster as providing more value, competitive differentiation, and really illustrates that you have the expertise in cases where they did not. Or if they provided some expertise, you're providing more, and you're covering that entire ecosystem of information. When you do all of those things every time and get into that rhythm, it starts to build on itself, and you're not putting things out there that provide no value to the world. You're not providing darkness, you're providing light to the world with your competitive analysis. Competitive analysis is ultra critical because you might be able to find a site that's not publishing anymore, and maybe it's a 170-page site all about this one collection of topics. Here was their velocity of content production over time. Here's been the decay over time. Here's how much they published during their process on these concepts. They're a roughly equivalent site to me. I know now, if I take the best of what they do, the weaknesses that they have, and I put a wholesale better 170 pages out there that do a better job than them at covering those topics comprehensively, also connect to what I already have, I'm going to bring more value to the world than what exists. And I'm going to do it effectively and on a budget. And hopefully this helps you get there to the next stage. Set the standard for content quality and differentiation inside your organization. Think differently about competitive analysis. It's not just about copying. It's not just about seeing how they do it. It's about understanding what they can do and likely will do next, and how what you can put out there is going to be higher quality, differentiated, and much more creative through competitive analysis. Thanks again. I'm Jeff Coyle. Shoot me a note, Jeffrey_Coyle on Twitter, Jeff@marketmuse.com if you have any feedback, and I will see you next time. Cheers.